Okay, recording. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel once again. Time for my second can't even talk right, motorcycle movie review. So keep in mind, if I keep doing this on the channel, I will try to adjust my language to appropriately describe the movie. Like if I'm doing rated R movies and you won't let your kid watch that movie, don't let them watch the review. Also, don't let your kids watch my channel anyway. It's just bad practice. But if I do something PG-13, I'll keep the language PG-13. So, enough of the disclaimers. On to John Wick Chapter 2. Pretty much seamlessly picks up where John Wick 1 ended. Almost seamlessly. It could have been a couple days, maybe a week later. That's hard to tell. They don't really give a time frame. But the movie starts off, of course, with our protagonist, Keanu Reeves, involved in a motorcycle car chase. Being facilitated by that badass Camaro that he got from John Leguizamo's character, Aurelio, in the first movie. Apparently he still has it because it's only been a couple days. So he's chasing his motorcycle through the city. New York still a setting. Motorcycle crashes. Guy picks up the bike. You know, outmaneuvers John Wick. I'm not sure if it was FC09, FC10. This was way back before they changed the name to the MTs. The movie was released in 17? Yeah, so it was released in 2017. So it was a Street Fighter type bike. It was naked. I'm doing my motorcycle community a disservice by not knowing what type of bike it was. But it's hard to tell. It was fast and it was dark. So, motorcycle crash. He picks it up, runs off. John Wick pretty much has him off at the pass, gets around him in some other street corner block thing, jumps in front of him, stops real hard. Of course, the motorcycle guy does not have the stopping capabilities of a car, and hits the car, flies over the car, or hits the car, and yeah, flies over the car. Bike is obviously total. Motorcycle guy's laid out on the ground. John Wick beats the crap out of him, basically to get the information about what he's looking for. He's looking for his car, the original badass Mustang from the first movie. Apparently, this guy knows where it is, and he tells him where it is in the warehouse. So, fade to the next scene. You see Abram Tarasov, brother of Vigo Tarasov. I think I called him Victor in the first review. His name's Vigo, the dad from the first movie and uncle to Yosef. He's basically going, John Wick's on his way, and then his goon, none of these goons are not going to get names, maybe just one of them because she's the main one and she's a girl. His goon goes, they're going through the same rigmarole they went through in the first movie. It was just the car, blah blah blah, it was just the dog. The guy, Abram's like, it's not just the car, it's not just the dog, it's John Wick's dog and it's John Wick's car. God damn it. So he starts telling him the whole spiel. He's like, he killed my nephew and my brother for this car. You think he's just gonna stop? The goon's like, maybe we should just give it to him. He's like, nah, that's not gonna fix it. And then Abram goes into the exact same spiel that Vigo goes into the first movie. He's a man of will, determination, a pure, sheer will and all this other stuff. And he's like, I seen him kill the guys with a pencil. And then his goon interrupts him. He's like, yeah, I know the pencil story. I heard it. So it's going back and forth. Meanwhile, John is proceeding through the warehouse. He's reached the destination, of course, because the goon that he marked off in the street gave it to him. He gets to the warehouse while this guy's telling the story, and phone rings. He's like, hello? His goon picks up the phone, gives it to him, because he's too classy to pick up the own hand receiver for the phone. Hands it to him, and then, should have waited, bro. That was dumb. I'm not even speeding. Hands him the receiver. He says hello. John Wick goes, you got my car, but he says it in Russian, I believe, or Slavic. Then just hangs up. He's not one for holding on a conversation on his telephone. So the guy just looks up in the air and basically is just like, God damn, John Wick's here. He's coming for his car. So John Wick actually silently gets into the warehouse, finds the vehicle. It's covered under a tarp of some sort. It's obviously a chop shop type warehouse or shipping type warehouse where they got a lot of nice cars they're getting rid of. It was also like a cab depot, so I guess it's really easy to hide cars where there's already a ton of cars. So anywho, he pulls off the sheet tarp, exposes this vehicle, grabs the key, shuts the door gently, goes to start the vehicle. It's loud as shit. And then, like, everybody in the warehouse is like, what? Did you really think you're going to sneak out of here with this thing? So everybody goes nuts. They start ramming his car, and basically in the next 2 to 3 minutes, it's just all his car getting completely destroyed. Like, he backs it into stuff, he rams another car, ends up getting out of the warehouse, then his exit is blocked, so he whips back around, gets back into the warehouse, trying to go out the other side because the warehouse has got 2 doors. The door shuts, another car pulls in front of it, he rams that car, destroying the front end even more than it already was, and then ends up falling out of the vehicle because another dude hits him with a cab and knocks him out pretty much because he didn't buckle the safety belt. Due to the momentum, he flies out, hits the ground. So he beats up Cabby Goon. Another set of Cabby Goons show up. Like, literally all these dudes are showing up in cabs because they're in a warehouse full of cabs. And another, I don't know, minute and a half, 2 minutes worth of goon whooping ensues. Goes through all of this. Of course, he beats the goons, and then massive goon shows up. John says, screw this noise. He just shoots the dude in both legs and then lets him moan. The whole time, Abram Tarasov is still upstairs, just sitting back in his chair, staring at the ceiling like, dude, come on. So, John Wick goes upstairs, pours himself a drink, pours Tarasov a drink, and then looks at him and just says, peace. Like, now it's over. Me and you ain't got no issues. And then he goes, peace. And then they clink glasses, and then there's a maggot, or not a maggot. What's those damn things? Gnat in my helmet. It's really annoying. So they clink glasses, and then John Wick takes his car, drives off, goes home, parks it. Then all of a sudden you find out, holy shit, it's not just a car. Apparently that car in the glove compartment had a card with a picture of John and his wife, and also that Mustang in the background. And then of course memory flashback ensues, basically bringing you up to speed on what happened in the first movie, how the wife got the terminal illness, passed out, died, kind of deal. So you're like, oh man, he didn't really care about the car, he just wanted his picture of his wife back. Puts his stuff up, takes a little break, ends up calling up Aurelio, John Leguizamo's character, pops up, looks at the car, is like, yeah, I think you got a crack in the windshield type deal. Can you fix it? Yeah, I can fix it. Takes the car, says thanks. John Wick tells thanks for letting him know where it was, because I guess during their underground connections, of course, Aurelio knew where the boosted car went after he booted him out of his shop. John goes to put away his murder clothes and all his guns, and quite literally, as soon as he goes through and puts the last finishing touches on the new concrete he dropped in his basement, bing bong, doorbell rings. Like, the dude, like, he's down in the basement, covered in dirt and concrete dust and all this crap. Goes upstairs, opens the door, boom, enter our main antagonist, which is Santino D'Antonio, Italian dude. And then Goon 1 appears. She's in the background. You really don't know her purpose yet, but she has a very menacing tone to her look. Short hair, kind of hot. She's been in other things, like plenty of other things. I just can't describe one of her movies right now, but you recognize her when you see her. So Goon 1 shows her face, and then D'Antonio goes into the house by himself with John Wick, and has a little discussion with him. Basically like, yo, sorry about your wife. Same spiel that Tarasov gave him in the first movie. So they're really keeping the tone like in line with the first movie. Like, all these people know John Wick's like trying to get out of his life, and he's like, yeah, sorry about the wife, sorry about everything else. John's like, what you here for, fool? D'Antonio's like, yo, you got back into life. And John's like, nah, no, I didn't. He goes, dude, yes, you did. And you remember that thing I did for you? They still don't allude to, they don't tell you what John did. Maybe I missed it, and I've seen this movie a couple times, or maybe I just, they just haven't said it. But the night he had completed his impossible task that they referred to in the first movie, D'Antonio had a part of it, and he gave John a marker, basically a blood seal pact that says, hey, if I do this for you, these are the terms of our agreement. If I ever need to call on you, you can come running when I call. And John's like, take it back. D'Antonio's presenting him with the marker saying, hey, you remember, we got a deal. You back into life, now I get the call on you. John's like, I'm not back into life. They go back and forth for, 30 seconds. And then D'Antonio's like, all right, I'll go find somebody else. And he leaves. John goes to chill in the kitchen. D'Antonio goes to his trunk, whips out some type of incendiary grenade launcher type device, and blows John Wick's house up. John Wick's got a glass house. Blows John Wick out of the back window. He lands on the grass. Dog ends up safe, so PETA doesn't have to get involved. Dog's outside, licks John's face, and wakes him up. John's like, damn, now I got to deal with this. So, of course, John gets up, heads back to New York, meets the concierge again from the first movie back at the Continental Hotel, wishes to speak with the manager, who is, of course, Ian McShane, and try to get some information on where D'Antonio is. Ian McShane says, hey, what did you think was going to happen, dude? Yeah, I told you. You got back into life, and now, you know, people are going to screw with you. So he's like, you don't want to mess with this dude, because he's like, it's not a royal family. It's called the High Table. They're like, I don't know. It's very mafia type tones to this movie and the underlying characters within. So John Wick finds out D'Antonio is at a museum in New York somewhere. Because the Ian McShane basically says, look, dude, do what the guy wants, your marker will be fulfilled, and then you're done. You're freaking done. You can go do what you want. You can kill him after. He was like, well, you can't do business on continental grounds. Can't kill somebody who has your marker, because that immediately forfeits your life, pretty much. It's like, honor your agreements. They got the criminal underground agreement system going. Meets the dude at the museum, figures out that he wants, D'Antonio wants John Wick to kill his own sister, not John Wick's sister, D'Antonio's sister, Giovanna, D'Antonio, whatever, dude's sister, because she's got a seat at the High Table. Their dad died and gave her power, and it didn't give to him, and he's a spoiled brat and he's jealous. So he wants to call John Wick in to kill his sister. John's like, man, you suck. All right, I'll do it, and I'll be out of here. And then, so he heads off to Rome. Go shopping. There's like it's not a montage, but it's like one of those scenes where I was saying in the other review where they do a lot of stuff simultaneously. He's meeting with the architect that has maps for the city and the catacombs where this lady will be, and he's meeting with the tailor who is custom making him a bullet-resistant combat-type ready suit. And he's also discussing items with a chef-type dealer for armory. Like, the dude gives out guns like a chef would pick out cuts of meat. It's freaking hilarious. It's awesome. It's well put together. Throw a picture of him up too. I forget his name, but the dude's been in a ton of movies. So John Wick gets all his gear. He goes and places various weapons throughout the catacombs, and is able to infiltrate this lady's lair silently, like nobody knew he was there at all. But then it switches to her before it even shows that he got in, but you can allude to it. He shows up later. It switches to her at some type of, I don't know, rave party. Of course, she's the guest of honor. She walks through. People are like, oh, hey, it's her, blah, blah, blah. And they got people on stage singing, bunch of music, flashy lights. So, enter Cassian, who's played by Common's character. Common, if you don't know who he is, great rapper. I believe he is an author as well, and been in a ton of stuff. Smoking Aces, he was the voice in Littlefoot for the Old Wise and Elder Bigfoot. Ton of stuff. Great guy. So he is her bodyguard, who is also in the same field and has almost the same skill level as John Wick. He did not see John Wick. You just see him guarding D'Antonio. So she tells him basically, I'm gonna go meet with this guy. So she meets with some dude about some agreement. Very minor character. He's there for 10 seconds, then he leaves. And she's like, hey, you go and entertain the guests. I'll be here chilling out. Cassian leaves. John Wick pops out of the shadows, gun drawn. She sees him in the mirror, turns around, it's like, damn, what up, John? That sucks. I pretty much know you're here to kill me, so could you tell me why? He gives him the whole spiel. Brother wants you dead. She's like, oh, that's bullshit. She gets naked for some reason, which, I mean, whatevs. They don't show anything, so she's an older lady, but well put together. So she gets naked, jumps in the hot tub, and takes her hairpins out, which she has blades in her hairpins for some reason. Loose ends, no idea why. And she slices her own wrist, and John's like, what up with that noise? She's like, I lived on my own terms, I'm gonna die on my own terms. He says, I can understand that, that's respectable. Goes to hold her hand while she's bleeding out, then he shoots her in the head. He shoots her in the head after she's already bleeding out from slicing her own wrist. Epic, right? But I guess he had to prove that he did the job or whatever. Couldn't just look like she slit her own wrist. So he's walking out through the crowd. All of a sudden, Common, sees him at the corner of his eye, turns around, John, Cassian. They do the same greeting they've done in the previous movie. And he goes, you working? Same thing that everybody else says. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the one spot in the beginning of the movie where John Wick's house got blew up. The cop from the first movie came, walked up to John and goes, gas leak. John goes, yeah, gas leak. The same cop. Freaking the symmetry between these two movies is awesome. So, okay, back to Common. John says, you working? Or Common says, you working? John says, yes. Asks if it's a good night. John says, unfortunately, yes. Of course, this is underground talk for, hey, did you kill your mark? Yes, he did. And then Common can, of course, ascertain that his mark was the lady he was guarding, D'Antonio. They immediately shoot each other, but of course they shopped at the same tailor, so they both have the same bulletproof suits on. They fall to the ground sore as shit because they both got rounds in their chest. John, of course, runs off as Common is recovering. He sends goons after him, and then ensue another, I don't know, 2-minute goon fight. They chase him out in the open grounds, and then he ends up running into the catacombs, shooting goons. Common's goons. So he finally gets away, and then in the catacombs, Goon 1, the chick goon, is there. She sends her goons, which John Wick figures out, hey, I killed the sister. The male D'Antonio is trying to tie up loose ends, and he wants to get rid of me just to make everything nice and neat, which is like a super dick move. Like, dude, you're supposed to erase my contract with you. Let me go live about my life. So, oh, by the way, Goon 1 doesn't speak. I think she's no, she's not deaf. She just may be mute. She speaks in sign language the entire movie, which is kind of neat. It's a different approach. So he's going to the catacombs, killing the other rando goons with his various weapons he pre-placed because he knew he was going to have an escape plan. Ends up running out into the city, and after he's dispatched all the goons, of course, because they're just goons. Runs out to the city. All of a sudden, he gets hit by a car. Common is driving the car, hits John Wick. Then they beat the shit out of each other for another minute and a half. They fight themselves onto continental ground. Now, this is Continental Rome. It's run by a different manager. God, I can't remember this guy's name right now. But of course, I'm sure you see the picture. So it's run by a different manager, and then he stops and says, hey, gentlemen. They look up, and he's like, do I got to remind you about no business on continental grounds? And they both pretty much go, no sir, you don't. So John and Common go to the bar and have a drink. They're sitting there chit-chatting. You know, John's telling Cassian that, hey, I had a marker, I had to do this, blah blah blah. And then Common's like, or Cassian, whatever, I'll go back and forth. He's like, I understand, I get it, you free now? He's like, yeah, cool. And he's like, am I free? And then Cassian's like, nah, not really. He goes, damn. Because he's like, yo, I was close to that chick. She was my mark. Or, what did he call her? Ward? I think it was banging her. I mean, they kind of overshadowed it a little bit. But he's pretty pissed. And he's like, yeah, once we get out of here, you're done for. So, you go through this whole thing. And then he says, I'll try to make it quick. And then John says, I'll try to do the same for you. Basically, he's saying they're going to kill each other, and they're just going to have the niceties to do it quickly. So Common leaves. John gets up to turn around. Guess who's sitting there? Goon 1. She's sitting in the chair, you know, and gives him some sign language, blah, blah, blah. See you later. And then he speaks back in sign language to her. Not unless I see you first. So John also speaks sign language. She's like, son of a bitch. Like, she had no idea, of course. So she had the look on her face where she was pretty highly disappointed in the fact that he knew what she was saying the whole time. So John is on his way out of the Continental Rome. He's like, hey, tell the manager I want to check out. And I'm getting ready to leave. So while he's checking out, D'Antonio is now putting a $7 million contract on John Wick's head. And he made it open. He didn't say, hey, you can do this, and sign it to people. He made it open. So now there's tons of assassins who are trying to kill John Wick. Because as soon as he leaves Continental Grounds, he's basically open game. So he does all of this, he leaves. Of course, he's going back to New York, or attempted to go back to New York. He gets back to New York, and then, geez, am I missing anything? Leaves Continental, gets back to New York. Of course, he's searching for D'Antonio, because D'Antonio's got a museum in New York that he's the owner, operator of, or purveyor, or whatever. So John Wick gets back to New York, goes to Damn. Where did he go? Man. I have no idea. Lost my train of thought. Best thing to do during a long speaking movie review. Let me see if it'll come back after I try not to get dead here. Oh yeah, no, that's about right. Yeah, I'm right. So he goes back to New York, and of course he's dodging all these other assassins that now know that his contract is open, and he of course is now, like, everybody knows him anyway, so he's the world's biggest target, and he is going through you know, subway systems and train stations and all this stuff, and he's just basically taking out all these. It's like every 10th person in New York is a freaking assassin. So it's like dudes at the train station, dudes at like the airport, like on the escalator. They're trying to take him out. People walking down the streets. Big sumo wrestler dude tries to take him out. Now they're flashing back and forth between all these scenes once again, showing him fighting the sumo guy, fighting this violinist in the subway, fighting running from two freaking janitors. It's like, dude, who the shit is not an assassin in New York? It's crazy. So of course, in the meantime, Common has also traveled to New York. John has made his way up onto the surface level, and he's walking past one of those giant light fountains. Not a light fountain, but it's a water fountain with lighting in it. It sprays up and then it stops, and then it's just ground again. And then there's water sprays. Of course, the water stops. He looks over and he's staring Cassian right in the face. And then they start shooting at each other. Then the water comes up. They lose sight of each other. They run off, and he chases each other down into back down to the train station. So he runs down, or a subway station, not train. Runs down, dispatches another two random goons that are down there, and then Common and he both enter the subway train. Yeah, it's a train. So yeah, they both get on. It's crowded. They wait a couple stops, let it empty out a bit. Train car's now got maybe 5-6 people in it. Common whips out his knife, goes to stab John, all quiet like, not to cause a scene, and then John grabs his hand, and of course the fight ensues. Common is able to stab John in the thigh, and then they just start whomping the shit out of each other. Of course John gets the upper hand, gives Common the common courtesy, wordplay, to not kill him. He stabs him in the aorta, A-O-R-T-A, and then says, you can take this out and try to kill me, or you can leave it and live. So basically Common sits there, chills out, and kind of smirks as John Wick gets off the train and gets away. He is now injured. He's been shot by the violinist lady, and he's just whooped, beat the shit again, just like it was in the first movie. So he finds a random beggar in the subway, who's not a random beggar. He's part of an underground network of spies, I guess, that work for another assassin. He gives him a gold coin, drops it in his cup. Guy shields him from the goons that are chasing him, puts him under a plastic tarp and a cover, and then takes him to none other than, boom, enter Lawrence Fishburne, another member of the Matrix family, who is the leader of this underground band of, I guess they're spies. They gotta be spies, or network of ears or some crap. So he takes him to Lawrence Fishburne. Lawrence Fishburne's like, yo, John Wick, $7 million, baby. We're going to Applebee's. So John Wick, of course, convinces Lawrence Fishburne to give him a weapon. Lawrence Fishburne says, all right, here you go. Colt 1911. Gives him a 7-round magazine. Says $7 million, $1 million a round. This some expensive ass bullets. And then he lets John go. He's like, the only way, John, he told him, hey, this guy's going to take over New York, and then he's going to come for you eventually. Do you want a war? You just want to give me a gun and let me loose. He said, you let me loose? Okay, cool. Then he says, you owe me, John. And John's like, you don't want me owing you. Of course, you can see what happens when John Wick owes you and you welch on the debt, or you treat him like shit. So he's got the Colt. He goes to go find Antonio, who is at his museum hosting a party, gala, some type of gathering of sorts. And he just walked right in through the underground network. He didn't come through the front door. The underground dudes escorted him through like the sewer system or some kind of maintenance hatch or some crap. So he pops up to the museum, walks out to the middle of the floor. He's about, I don't know, 15 feet from D'Antonio. D'Antonio looks, sees him, freezes. 3 more goons come out. They're dressed pretty nice. It's a formal affair. Of course, John's only got 7 rounds. He uses all 7 rounds on those goons and then proceeds to kill all those goons with the weapons that they drop. Another 2-minute goon fight ensues, all very action-packed. And then he finally finds another goon that he killed that has the same magazine and weapon that he has. He takes his magazine, keeps the gun, shoots off a couple rounds, kills another couple goons, ends up walking into a hall of mirrors, which is a horrible place to fight ever. And all the meanwhile, D'Antonio is on some kind of speaker system taunting him, talking crap about coming back into life and being John Wick and how you can never escape and all this other crap. So you'd have just ran, you were free. Like, nah, you wouldn't have let him run, son. You'd have just stalked him out for the rest of his life and made it hell. So he's talking all this crap. Meanwhile, Goon 1 was nowhere to be found. She now appears rolling up with another couple goons in a SUV. She walks into the museum, walks into the Hall of Mirrors, grabs D'Antonio. He freaks out like, oh shit, it's John Wick. She's like, nah, it's not, it's me. And then she lets him go. He walks out. She goes into the Hall of Mirrors to, of course, damn that it much. She goes into the Hall of Mirrors, of course, to fight John Wick, take him out. She gets in a couple good looks. She has a little tiny blade, T-blade, that she tries to shake him up with. She, like I said, she got a couple good licks, but of course she got dead. John stabbed her with her own knife. And then she said in sign language, see you around, John, which is an homage to the first movie. That's what Tarasov said to John right at the end. And, you know, insinuating that, you know, he's going to die and I see you when you're dead. Didn't happen. She got dead. He walked off. So he gets out of the museum. D'Antonio, by this time, has made it to the Continental. Walks into the Continental after D'Antonio with his gun drawn. Asks the concierge where D'Antonio is. Basically says, I'm here for D'Antonio. Concierge says, yeah, he at the bar. Oh, I forgot to tell you, John Wick's pit bull was left with the concierge when he went there the first time before he went to Rome, because he couldn't take the dog with him. Concierge babysit the pit bull, said he was a joy to be with, no trouble at all, which was super funny. And so John Wick walks up to the bar. Ian McShane is there, of course, because it's his bar, it's his hotel. And he is pretty much God there. So D'Antonio has no control over Ian McShane. He walked in making demands, and Ian McShane was like, yo, shut your ass, go sit down and have a drink. So he does that. So anyway, back to John Wick. John Wick walks in to the bar, gun drawn. Ian McShane's like, yo, chill out, John, you don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. And just like the first movie, the guy started talking shit. And right before he got his words out, John just shoots him in the head. Like, I don't hear nothing you got to say. And then Ian McShane's like, oh man, what have you done? John's like, I finished it. So he drops the gun. Of course, that was the last round in the 1911 that he had. So John drops the gun, walks out of Continental, and then goes home. Him and the dog go home. He gets one little scrap of what's left of his wife's belongings. It was either a necklace or a bracelet of some sort. And he just sits there in a chair in his burnt down house. I think it's raining also, or it's at least wet. And he's just sitting there. All of a sudden, concierge dude shows up. He's like, sir, if you could come with me. Pretty much the same approach that they took with Perkins in the first movie. So concierge dude gets John and the dog. This dude don't need help crossing the street. He gets John and the dog, and they go to a park in New York, and of course they go to meet Winston, which is Ian McShane's character. Basically, John's like, what's up? What am I looking at? He said, well, they doubled the contract, and now it's international. So it went from 7 million to 14 million. He says, okay, so what's my relationship with the Continental? He's like, what the fuck you think? You're excommunicado, which means you're done, son. You can't come here anymore, and all of our benefits are no longer available to you. So their whole network of underground stuff is like, pretty much, you don't get no fancy suits, you don't get no guns, you gotta do whatever you gotta do on your own. And he's like, well, you could have killed me. Why ain't I dead? He's like, because I willed it to be so. And then he looks at some dude, and all of a sudden, like 70 people in the park stop, and they just look at John. I thought it was gonna be a flash mob, which would have been really awkward for this movie. But basically, Ian McShane was saying, hey, these are all my people, and they could have killed you at any time, especially walking through here like this, but I made it so it wasn't so. And then he dismisses them, they leave, and he's like, John, I give you an hour, man. Looks down at his watch, calls it in, says that John Wick's excommunicado. John Wick's like, I understand, but you tell whoever's coming after me, I'm gonna kill him. And I'm gonna kill all of them. And then he runs off, of course, with his dog, who is like super trained, no leash, no collar. And then he starts to get these suspicious looks, like everybody in the park is an assassin. It's like, damn, is any normal person still living in New York? No idea. But it also makes sense because like 70 people were just standing there under Ian McShane's control, so maybe there was a bunch of people out there under somebody else's control, or maybe those people were like, I want some money too. Either way, at the end of the movie, it wraps. He runs off with his dog, and then of course, when I go check out John Wick 3, I'm gonna drop the review for that. So thanks guys for watching. I may keep this up, it's kind of fun. I love movies, so I will catch you guys later.